If you're watching this right now, don't blink, because what you're about to hear is the kind of story that only happens once in a lifetime, the kind that leaves judges frozen, the crowd breathless, and millions of viewers replaying the moment over and over again. Stay with me until the very end, because the final seconds of this story are the ones that change everything. And if stories like this move you, inspire you, or give you chills, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, because moments like this deserve to be shared. Backstage at America's Got Talent, the noise was overwhelming. Cameras rolled, contestants paced back and forth, and dreams either trembled or burned bright under the pressure. Among them stood a quiet Filipino man in his early 30s, slim build, neatly combed black hair, wearing a simple black jacket that looked like it had been worn for years. His name wasn't famous. His story wasn't known. To most people, he looked like just another hopeful contestant waiting for his number to be called. But inside his chest, his heart was pounding like a drum, carrying decades of sacrifice, rejection, and an unshakable love for music. Back home in the Philippines, music had always been his escape. As a child, he grew up in a small neighborhood where electricity sometimes went out, but songs never did. His father worked long hours, his mother sold food to make ends meet, and money was always tight. The first time he heard an Elvis Presley song crackling through an old radio, something inside him changed. That voice, powerful, emotional, alive, felt like a promise. He didn't understand all the words, but he felt every note. From that day on, he sang everywhere, in the kitchen, on the street, at school events, even to himself when life felt too heavy. People laughed at first. "Why Elvis?" they asked. "That's old music." Others told him it was impossible, that the world didn't need another Elvis, especially not one from a small town in the Philippines. But he kept singing. Not because he wanted fame, but because singing was the only time he felt truly seen. As years passed, reality hit hard. He took jobs wherever he could: factories, small gigs, late-night performances in half-empty bars. Sometimes he earned enough to eat. Sometimes he didn't. Still, every night, he practiced, imagining a bigger stage, a brighter light, a moment when anyone would truly listen. That moment felt impossibly far away until he made a decision that terrified him. With borrowed money and the blessings of his family, he flew to America to audition for America's Got Talent. It was a risk that could change his life or leave him with nothing. Standing backstage now, thousands of miles from home, he closed his eyes and thought of his parents, of the little boy singing to a broken radio, of all the times he almost gave up. When his number was called, his legs felt weak, but his spirit stood tall. The doors opened, and he walked onto the AGT stage. The lights were blinding. The audience buzzed with curiosity. The judges looked up. Simon Cowell leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Heidi smiled politely. Howie tilted his head, already trying to figure him out. Sophia watched closely. When asked his name and where he was from, his accent was clear, his voice humble. "I'm from the Philippines," he said. A small cheer rippled through the crowd. Then came the question that changes everything: "What will you be singing today?" "Elvis Presley," he replied. There was a pause. A few raised eyebrows. Simon's face showed skepticism. He had heard Elvis songs thousands of times. The audience murmured. Everyone thought they knew what was coming. The music started. The first note left his mouth, and the room shifted. It wasn't an imitation. It wasn't a cheap copy. It was something deeper, an echo of Elvis's soul mixed with his own pain, hope, and history. His voice was rich, controlled, and emotional. Every lyric carried weight. Every note felt lived in. Within seconds, the audience leaned forward. Conversations stopped. Phones slowly lowered as people realized this wasn't background noise, this was a moment. As he sang, flashes of his life seemed to pour into the performance. The struggle. The loneliness. The belief that refused to die. His body moved naturally, not exaggerated, not forced. He wasn't trying to be Elvis. He was honoring him while standing fully as himself. Halfway through the song, something extraordinary happened. Simon Cowell's posture changed. The crossed arms loosened. His eyes widened slightly. By the time the chorus hit, Simon's jaw dropped. Not as a show. Not for the cameras. It was pure, unfiltered shock. The kind that only happens when expectations are shattered. The crowd erupted in applause before the song even ended. Some stood. Others had tears in their eyes. When he held the final note and let it fade into silence, there was a split second of disbelief, then the entire theater exploded. A full standing ovation. Cheers thundered through the room. The Filipino Elvis stood there, breathing hard, eyes glistening, overwhelmed by the sound of thousands of people finally listening. The judges rose to their feet. Heidi clapped with a huge smile. Sophia looked genuinely moved. Howie shook his head in disbelief. And Simon was smiling. You know, Simon said when the noise finally died down, I came into this thinking, oh no, another Elvis. But that was special. You didn't copy him. You respected him. And you made it your own. I did not expect that at all. Those words hit harder than any buzzer ever could. Years of doubt dissolved in that moment. When the votes came, it was unanimous. For yes. A ticket to the next round. A dream still alive. Backstage, he broke down in tears. Not because he had won something, but because for the first time, the world had heard him, not just his voice, but his story. Messages poured in from the Philippines. People watched from small homes, crowded cafes, and quiet villages, seeing one of their own stand tall on a global stage. He wasn't just representing Elvis. He was representing every dreamer who was told they were aiming too high. By the end of the night, the video spread like wildfire. Millions of views. Headlines everywhere. Filipino Elvis leaves AGT shaking. Simon Cowell stunned. But behind the viral moment was something more powerful, a reminder that talent knows no borders, and dreams don't need permission. And that's why this story matters. Because somewhere right now, someone is watching this, doubting themselves, wondering if it's too late or too impossible. This moment proves that it's not. If you believe, if you work, if you hold on long enough, your voice can shake the world too. If this story inspired you even a little, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us why we dream, and the next one might be even bigger. Before this video ends, you'll understand why the entire AGT theater went silent, and why Simon Cowell couldn't even hide his reaction. So stay with me till the last moment, because this isn't just a performance, it's a life-changing second. And if stories like this give you chills, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because these moments don't come often. The stage lights were brutal, almost blinding, and as the music crew prepared, a man stood alone at center stage. He didn't look flashy. No glitter, no dramatic costume. Just a Filipino man in his early 30s, hands slightly shaking, eyes fixed forward. To the judges, he looked calm. To the audience, he looked ordinary. But inside him lived a storm built from years of struggle, sacrifice, and quiet hope. Long before America's Got Talent, his world was very small. A modest home in the Philippines, thin walls, loud streets, and a family that worked non-stop just to survive. Music was never a luxury, it was an escape. When he first heard Elvis Presley on an old radio, it felt like someone had reached across time and space and spoken directly to him. That voice gave him courage when life offered none. He sang not to impress, but to survive. As he grew older, reality wasn't kind. People told him to be practical. Singing won't feed you, they said. And sometimes, they were right. There were nights he performed for almost no money, nights he walked home exhausted, wondering if the dream was foolish. But still, he sang. Even when no one listened. Standing on the AGT stage now, those memories pressed heavy on his chest. When Simon asked why he came all this way, his answer was simple. Because this is my last chance. The audience grew quiet. Simon raised an eyebrow. Then came the question that made people whisper. What will you sing? Elvis Presley. A ripple of doubt spread across the room. Simon leaned back. He had heard this before. Too many times. The music began. The first note didn't just fill the theater, it cut through it. It wasn't loud. It wasn't forced. It was honest. His voice carried something rare, restraint mixed with emotion, power held back just enough to make people lean in. Within seconds, the audience forgot the comparison. This wasn't an Elvis impersonation. This was a man telling his story through Elvis's soul. As the song continued, the energy changed. The crowd stopped shifting. Judges stopped writing notes. Cameras caught Simon slowly leaning forward. By the chorus, his jaw dropped, not for the audience, not for the cameras, but because he genuinely did not see this coming. Every lyric felt earned. Every note sounded lived in. The singer closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened them, they were filled with tears. He wasn't acting. He was remembering every rejection, every sacrifice, every night he almost quit. When the final note faded, there was silence. Then the theater exploded. People stood. Some screamed. Others wiped tears away. The man on stage looked stunned, as if he couldn't belie. Don't scroll away yet, because in just a few minutes, you're going to witness the exact moment when doubt turns into disbelief, when a single voice freezes an entire theater, and when even Simon Cowell forgets to speak. Stay until the end, because this story doesn't just shock the judges, it changes a life forever. And if stories like this inspire you, lift you up, or remind you why dreams matter, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss moments like this. The America's Got Talent stage has seen everything: flashy performers, confident stars, heartbreaking failures. But on this night, something different walked out under the lights. A Filipino man, early 30s, standing alone at center stage. No dramatic entrance. No big smile. Just quiet focus. His shoulders were tense, his breathing slow, and his eyes carried the weight of someone who had waited far too long for this moment. To the audience, he was just another contestant. To the judges, another number on a long list. But inside him lived a story shaped by struggle, sacrifice, and an unbreakable bond with music. He grew up in the Philippines in a home where money was always short, but love was not. His parents worked endlessly, and he learned early what it meant to endure. As a child, he discovered Elvis Presley through an old radio, crackling, unreliable, but magical. That voice felt powerful yet vulnerable, strong yet human. It felt like hope. From that moment on, music became his refuge. He sang wherever he could, at family gatherings, neighborhood events, small local shows. People told him he sounded good, but good didn't pay the bills. As he got older, reality closed in. He took whatever work he could find. Singing became something he squeezed into tired nights and quiet moments. More than once, he told himself it was time to quit. More than once, he failed to let go. Years passed. Dreams faded. Then one night, after another long shift, he made a decision that scared him more than anything before. He would audition for America's Got Talent. Not because he believed he would win, but because he couldn't live with never trying. Standing on that stage now, he could feel the pressure in every breath. Simon Cowell looked at him carefully, arms crossed. When asked why he was here, his voice trembled slightly as he answered. "This is my dream. I've waited my whole life for this." Then came the question that shifted the room. "What will you sing today?" Elvis Presley. A pause. A few uncertain laughs. Simon leaned back, clearly unconvinced. The audience murmured. Everyone thought they knew how this would end. The music began. The first note changed everything. It wasn't loud. It wasn't showy. It was controlled, rich, and full of emotion. His voice didn't try to imitate, it connected. Within seconds, the audience leaned forward. The skepticism faded. What replaced it was attention. Real attention. As he sang, his story poured out through every lyric. The years of struggle. The nights of doubt. The love that never left. His movements were natural, his expressions honest. This wasn't a performance built for applause, it was a confession wrapped in music. Halfway through the song, cameras caught Simon Cowell leaning forward. His eyes widened. His mouth opened slightly. By the chorus, his jaw dropped completely. Not staged. Not exaggerated. Pure shock. The audience felt it too. You could hear it in the way the cheers tried to break through before the song even ended. When the final note faded, there was a moment of stunned silence, then the theater exploded. A standing ovation. People cheering, crying, shouting his name. The man on stage looked overwhelmed. His eyes filled with tears as he bowed his head, trying to process what was happening. For the first time in his life, thousands of people were listening. The judges stood. Heidi clapped enthusiastically. Sophia wiped her eyes. Howie shook his head in disbelief. Simon waited, then finally spoke. "I've heard Elvis songs my entire life," Simon said. "But I've never heard someone bring their own soul into it like that. I honestly didn't expect this, and that's why this was brilliant." 4 yes followed. But the true victory had already happened. That performance traveled across the world. Back in the Philippines, families watched together, seeing someone just like them stand on the biggest stage imaginable. He wasn't just singing Elvis. He was proving that dreams don't expire and talent doesn't care where you come from. This wasn't just an audition. It was a reminder that sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest dreams. That persistence can outlast doubt. And that one moment, one song, can change everything. If this story touched you, inspired you, or reminded you not to give up, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this don't just entertain us, they remind us who we can be. Before you decide to skip this video, give me 1 minute, because what happens next is the exact moment a lifetime of silence turns into thunder. When one voice from the Philippines walks onto the biggest stage in America and leaves even Simon Cowell speechless. Stay until the end, because the final seconds of this story are the reason millions couldn't stop watching. And if moments like this inspire you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach the world. The lights came on slowly, revealing a man standing alone at center stage. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't waving. He simply stood there, breathing carefully, as if afraid one wrong breath might shatter the moment. He was in his early 30s, dressed simply, his hands clasped together in front of him. To the judges, he looked nervous. To the audience, he looked ordinary. But inside him lived a lifetime of moments that led to these few seconds. He grew up in the Philippines, in a place where dreams were often postponed for survival. His parents worked hard, day after day, doing whatever they could to keep food on the table. There were no grand plans for the future, only hope that tomorrow would be a little easier than today. As a child, he discovered music not in a concert hall, but through a worn-out radio that barely worked. One evening, an Elvis Presley song came through the static, and something inside him locked into place. That voice didn't just sing, it felt. And for the first time, he felt understood. From that moment on, he sang constantly. Not because he believed it would make him famous, but because it made life lighter. He sang while doing chores, while walking home, while lying awake at night worrying about the future. As he grew older, people began to tell him to be realistic. Music was a hobby, they said. Life required something more stable. He listened, but he never stopped singing. Adulthood came with pressure. Jobs that drained him. Nights that ended in exhaustion. He performed at small events, sometimes to applause, sometimes to empty rooms. There were days he questioned everything. Days when quitting felt like the smart choice. But every time he tried to imagine a life without music, something inside him broke. So he kept going. Then came the decision that terrified him more than any rejection ever had. He would audition for America's Got Talent. It meant leaving home, borrowing money, risking embarrassment on a global stage. But it also meant honoring the boy who once believed a radio could change his life. Now, standing under the AGT lights, he answered the judge's questions softly. When Simon asked what he would sing, his response caused a shift in the room. Elvis Presley. There was hesitation. A familiar choice. A risky one. Simon leaned back, arms crossed, clearly unimpressed. The audience murmured. Everyone thought they knew how this would go. The music started. The first note landed gently, but it carried weight. It wasn't an impersonation. It wasn't flashy. It was restrained, emotional, and deeply personal. His voice carried experience. Loss. Hope. Within seconds, the audience stopped moving. The skepticism melted away, replaced by something rare: connection. As he sang, his face revealed everything he'd been through. The struggle to be heard. The fear of failing. The refusal to give up. His movements were subtle, his control undeniable. He wasn't trying to impress the room, he was telling the truth. Then the camera cut to Simon Cowell. The change was unmistakable. Simon leaned forward. His eyebrows lifted. His mouth slowly opened as realization set in. By the time the chorus arrived, his jaw had dropped completely. Not because of the song alone, but because he had underestimated the man standing before him. The final note hung in the air. Silence. Then the entire theater erupted. People jumped to their feet. Cheers poured down from every corner. Some clapped. Some cried. The man on stage froze, overwhelmed, his eyes filling with tears as the sound washed over him. He bowed his head, not in victory, but in gratitude. The judges stood. Heidi applauded enthusiastically. Sophia looked emotional. Howie laughed in disbelief. Simon paused before speaking, still processing what he'd witnessed. I thought I knew exactly what this was going to be, Simon said. I couldn't have been more wrong. That was honest, unexpected, and unforgettable. For yes lit up the board. But the real win had already happened. That performance traveled far beyond the stage. It reached homes in the Philippines, where families watched with pride. It reached people who had been told their dreams were unrealistic. It reached anyone who had ever felt invisible. This wasn't just about Elvis. It was about courage. About showing up when doubt is loud. About believing that one moment, one song, can rewrite everything. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you not to give up, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes, all it takes is one voice.